Hello and welcome to the Social Recruiting Show. I'm Katrina Collier. I'm, of course, author of the Robot Proof Recruiter, which I somehow managed to get in every single time. And I am, of course, a candidate engagement speaker and facilitator as well. I'm, of course, joined by my gorgeous, talented talent acquisition professional, blah, blah, can't speak today, clearly, sidekick, the one and only Glenn Martin, who unfortunately has to listen to this all the time. And today we are just a little bit excited to be talking to the one, the only, the amazing, also talented talent acquisition professional, but I was told to call her a recruiting badass, pronounced ass,
Badass.
Amy Miller, who needs no introduction.
Welcome to the show, Amy.
Welcome.
This is a bucket list item for sure. I've been waiting since I met you, Katrina, to be invited to play. So
wow,
it's sort of about being invited. Start. You should have nagged me and said you missed me. Like, how did I miss you of all people? I've actually had the great joy of watching Amy go from strength to strength in her speaking career as well, which is a lot of people don't realise. So it's been quite nice watching you get stronger and stronger on stage.
That's totally cool.
How did you end up doing this recruiting malarkey?
Oh
how did you get here?
How did I get in recruiting?
Yeah.
Oh man, I was promised I would make a lot of money. I was told back in the 90s when I was trying to figure out, because I didn't go to college, I had no degree, I had no real skill other than running my mouth. And somebody's like, you can make money running your mouth. Like, sign me up.
Awesome.
I started in a little boutique firm back in the 90s, handed out paper applications and hiring truck drivers to deliver crap.
Wow.
20 years
so
later.
You were sold on the OTE, opportunity to earn, right?
Don't worry about being commission only. You make more money that way, they said.
Yeah.
I bet the truck drivers loved you though.
I was a star. I mean, I was
Did you go to the truck stops and put paper in the urinal?
That would have been a good idea, actually. You know what I did do?
Where else would you put it? We're hiring. We pay more than...
You've leapt from agency to putting notifications in men's urinals.
Hey, you gotta fish where they're biting, you know what I'm saying?
Where do you think the truck drivers are?
So what I did do though, once I had this rivalry with another local firm. Yeah. And they started hiring all of my drivers. So I went to all of our shared clients and I took my receptionist with me because she's really cute and blonde. This is so inappropriate. Like, anybody who signs today will get $100 sign-on bonus and you might get a date with her.
Wow.
So
okay.
to be
She's still mad at me.
there's a couple of things in that, Glenn. So last week at Mole Group, where they do look for truck drivers, I suggested that she put paper in the urinals and she went, I know, it still works. And that's last Friday.
Okay.
However, your comment just then about blonde and pretty after that dreadful article came out about the people being trained in what to wear as women. And you're the one that shared it.
I did. I was 20 something myself back then. I didn't know any better, but now I know. I'll fly.
I know, the world's changed.
Yeah, thankfully that was a good 20 plus years ago, and clearly times are very different then.
And she was not having it. She was like, she's a liar, but you will get the $100 bonus.
Yeah.
Just in case you were thinking.
In case, she's over promising and she will be under delivering on that one.
Yeah. So what?
In that particular case, I think that was a good thing. She was under delivering. So where did you go next?
All right.
So from there, I went through a series of agencies all over the place. I mean, I worked in Detroit, Phoenix, all up and down California, Oregon, Portland, Seattle, all over the place. I did that for about 10, 12 years maybe. And then in 2009, we had that nasty recession here in the States. So I decided...
the world.
I got laid off. My company basically left the US. It was a Dutch-based search firm, and they were like, y'all are falling apart. So I had to go get unemployment for the one and only time in my life. And these career coaches were completely over their head. And I was like, I can do your job. So I applied to 73 positions before I finally got hired as an employment specialist for the state of Washington.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
I mean, once I made up my mind that I was going to take this terrible job and I was going to force them to give me one. So I did that for a couple years. Economy picks back up, and that's when I went into corporate recruiting.
By the way, don't think it only hit the US. That's how I got out of agency recruitment.
Yeah.
Because I was sitting on rolling commission in the most toxic company ever.
Yeah.
And at the time, it was horrific. But actually, in retrospect, it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
I kind of think it was too. I mean, I had a great company. It was an awesome firm. I had an amazing boss, but it was feast and famine, you know. I mean, I had 4 kids by then, and this whole like up and down cycle was not good. I don't budget well enough to work on that kind of commission. I need a regular paycheck. That's my weakness.
So when did you go in-house then? When did Life on the Other Side happen?
Yeah, I went in-house, I guess it would have been 2011. And I worked for a really small company south of Seattle, nobody's ever heard of, called Zones. About 1,200 people. I hired 250 in 2 years. And a girlfriend of mine was contracting at Microsoft, and she said, "You would love it at Microsoft. You should come here." And I said, "Me? I'm not a tech recruiter. I'm not a big company recruiter. I would never fit that world. I don't have I don't like, this is not for me." And she talked me into it, and I gave up a full-time gig to go contract at Microsoft, and 6 weeks later was started the full-time. So kind of proud of that one. And then I was there for 5.5 years, and now I'm at another big company. So apparently I'm stuck now.
Yeah,
you're
she's
a
stuck
big
in
company person.
World.
Yeah,
you're really, but you're like a not big company person in a. Yeah, hence we're not saying the name of big company because.
I mean, we could. It's not like
no need. This is all about Amy Miller, the human being.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
So
what it?
Oh, sorry. Go. God, get a word in.
Well, now you've done it because my question's gone now.
No, stop it, Glenn.
That was the one I wanted to answer too.
No, I was just going to say, you know, in terms of Microsoft, I mean, what was it about that sort of company that kind of kept you there? I mean, big corporates, there is a danger that you can be quite siloed.
Yeah,
it can be a little bit repetitive. So, you know, 5 years or so, that's a decent stint for somebody that kind of worked, you know, as an independent contributor. So what was it about the company that kind of
and I changed jobs every 1.5 to 3 years. I mean, you dangle my commission carrot, I'm going.
You bloody millennial, you. Oh, no, wait, you're not.
I am solidly full of Gen X, but
so am I.
You know, I adapt to technology like a millennial, but I bitch about it like a boomer. So that's where I'm at. So
no, I know, but apparently though, that myth isn't there that it's only the millennials that job hop. Yeah, sure.
Clearly haven't met us, I guess.
Yeah, right.
So what kept me there, Glenn? Honestly, it was, I got to do a lot of different things in that 5 years because I do get bored easily. I do kind of get like, okay, I've solved that problem. I want to go do something bigger and harder and meatier. And so I had an opportunity to keep doing different things every couple of years. And by the time I left, I actually left at a time when it was like, okay, now here's a place where you're either going to go work with this new team or I could leave the company. Like that was kind of the crossroads I was at. So that was kind of cool. And every role that I took was bigger, harder, just
new challenges and continual learning as well, right? That's what you want.
100%. Going from hiring PMs to when I left, I was hiring data scientists and academics and PhDs and all kinds of weird. Yeah, it was really fun.
That sounds cool.
So this show came about because I finally remembered I hadn't asked Amy onto the show. My humble apologies after knowing you for so long. The number of times we've been drunk together as well. Anyway, moving on. This came about because you saw, what was it, like a post that basically said anyone can do recruiting. Explain it. Like, I know you've written a blog, but explain it for those who've somehow missed your blog.
Yeah, recruitingandyogapants.com.
Oh yeah, why recruiting in yoga pants?
In itself. Maybe if we have time, we'll get to that.
We'll come back to that one. Yeah.
I tend to write about things I see on the internet that irritate me, and I have a lot of people will send me articles like, "Oh, did you see this? Go bitch about it." Cool. Become a mouthpiece for the industry in some ways. So I stumbled across this article that was written by a UK-based company. And it basically I didn't allude to anything. It said flat out, recruiting is a great side gig. Here's how you can leverage our product or service or whatever the hell they're trying to sell and just sit back and make money.
Let the cash roll in.
Gosh,
yeah, that's pretty well what I've been doing in my recruitment career, just sitting
right?
back
And
and
I thought,
waiting.
why am I working so hard if it's this easy? I need to learn more.
Right.
Where
is this niche in recruitment? Where is it?
How do we not know about it after all these decades in
after
recruitment?
all these decades?
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know, they're disrupting the industry, as they all do.
Well, they are in the respect of disrupting all of us into being really angry that we're going to talk about it.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
You know, until
Good
the funding runs
catalyst.
out, and then they go, you know, start something else that also won't work, but whatever.
Yeah.
So I read the article like 4 or 5 times because I thought I'm not seeing these words put together in this way because this doesn't make any sense. And indeed, that was what they were saying. So I was very unhappy, and I wrote a response, and I, on every bit of social media, have offered to debate the founders, the author, anyone attached to
Ooh.
Yeah, but it's where you offered to debate it. I mean, anyone would be a bit scared of that.
I mean, I'm just a sweet little girl from Kansas. I don't know what they're afraid of. But, you know, here's the thing. There's nothing about it. The premise is this is a portal that job seekers will opt into for
miraculously appear.
They get money to opt in or whatever. So we're
yeah.
people to come look for a job, which is a weird, flawed premise for a lot of reasons, but whatever. So the idea is that, and this is almost an exact quote. I wish I had it pulled up, so I might get it not exactly right, but close enough. Just go find a client and get them to pay you 20%. That's it.
It's that easy.
All the clients watching the show, you'd pay that.
Go find a client.
Yeah. Let's help them out. Clients, 20%. Sounds like a good deal, right? You know, sign up straight away.
Just go find a client, get them to agree to your terms, sit back, and watch the money roll in.
So
we go find a client.
Yeah.
Sorry.
A marketplace. And are they essentially saying they're creating an online marketplace?
I think so. Yeah.
Because we haven't heard that idea before, have we?
You go find client, and the client has to be having the exact role of the people that are in this portal.
Yeah.
And you just think, how long has it taken LinkedIn to get 330 million people in there?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe LinkedIn should offer him a prepaid visa or something. I don't know. Maybe that's like the magic.
Oh, hang on. Yeah, what was that about? There was something, wasn't there? They were offering. What were they offering?
That's the hook. You know, we talk a lot about emotional currency and what makes people change jobs and why they would take a recruiter's call. You know, all the actual hard work that we do every day. Yeah, that stuff. Yeah. Well, now instead of doing all of that, now we can just give them a visa with our logo on it, and they get a percentage of the placement fee if they take a job. You know, that client I got for just getting them to agree to my terms at 20%.
Well, yeah, I mean,
because clients just do that.
Yeah, because that's I mean that would definitely sway me.
Yeah.
You know, after all this time perfecting my craft, if I wanted a new job, that's the first thing I would do. Who's going to give me a prepaid visa and give me some money to consider a job change?
Yeah, and clearly most clients come to the market knowing exactly what they want.
Every time. I mean, it's like just read the job description, Glenn.
They pulled out the one from 2 years ago. They didn't have to get a new one.
They don't need to actually dig into the client's needs or the team makeup or who's ready to be promoted or pissed when you replace their boss. None of that really matters. Just stick a job description.
And to be fair, everything that we're talking about in terms of candidate experience and employer branding, chuck that out the window.
Hey, we have bots to have those conversations. It's fine.
Yeah. We don't need any people skills. None required.
Whilst we are being a bit jokey about this, I mean, it does strike me as quite strange that, I know, but it just strikes me that they're trying to create a marketplace idea. That has been tried a number of times for specific sectors as well. And name me one that is, you know, I mean, other than kind of LinkedIn, but it's not really a marketplace per se, but actually like a platform play. I can't think of any that stand out actual winners that everybody kind of utilizes and flocks to. So I mean,
you can't have it to everybody though.
Yeah, I mean, there's no
like
no
Tempo that sponsored my book launch. They've got a really cool platform that's very, very specific.
Yeah,
it's not for everybody.
Exactly.
And it really does help job seekers stand out, but they're also looking at quality of job seeker and that sort of thing. So,
and that's the whole thing. And this industry is big enough, and there's enough variation of needs and solutions that
for sure,
almost anybody with a halfway baked idea could probably be successful. Here's my issue. When you paint this big brush of all of recruiting in general is going to be disrupted by some bullshit, I have serious issue with that. If you want to pick a certain segment or play in a certain pool, I support you. I'll be your biggest champion. But you tell me that all this shit that I've done for 20 years and how hard I've worked to really refine my recruiting process and be the best advocate I can be, we got a problem.
I think it's I think you hit the nail on the head really well with the a job seeker is just going to go for a visa. No, I mean even an active candidate still has fear about changing jobs, starting and failing. What if I don't fit in the team? What if they don't like me? Like, it's a big deal changing a job.
It is, and it's at every level. There is I mean, I've hired everything from truck drivers to CFOs. My current job,
We've heard how you've hired truck drivers,
managers. I did hire.
No, we've heard how.
It's only engineering managers. These are directors. Sometimes they're VPs. Like, these are very highly trained, specialized, smart, successful people. And I had to talk 2 of them off the ledge in the last week, because that fear of change starts coming up, and what if, and I don't know if this is the right place, and I am counseling somebody who's making $750,000 a year, and I mean, you're gonna offer that person a 5%, come on. Here.
I mean,
it is that fear, isn't it, of like starting a job and just failing, and what happens if. Yeah. And there's still, I think, particularly because you're in the senior level applicant, so there's still that fear of gaps. I think younger, I think there's less concern about gaps, but it's like, oh, well, what if I do start and I am out? And oh, gosh, I've come to, and we all know your company is quite special. So, whoa, I didn't make it there. So it's like, really sorry. Obviously, Banjo isn't on the show, just none of you can see him, and he's now scratching. So light's gone.
Need to move.
Even he thought that was silly about the Visa card.
It works, like I said, and Glenn, you alluded to this as well. There's always going to be a pocket. There's always going to be maybe a subset of the industry where this works. Very transient type labor. I worked at Labor Ready. One of my very first jobs was way back in the day, actually running newspaper ads for Labor Ready. That's how long I've been in this industry.
The company is called Labor Ready.
Company is called Labor Ready, and they send out day laborers, and it's work today, paid today was the pitch. So
I love that. The company name just is exactly right for what they do.
I love it. This is like, I don't know, 96 or 97. I mean, it's been years ago, but that kind of concept, I get it, because you're really capitalizing on this urgency. Like, I need a job today. I need some quick cash. That's fine. But you can't apply that to Big 4 accountants or engineering managers or nurses, or I mean, it's just silly to even paint that kind of a broad brush. So the article was really horribly written, and hey, if you're listening, let's talk about it.
Amy Miller would like to speak to you.
Amy Miller,
come on down.
I have so many questions.
it's like recruitment. It's the verbal version of Recruitment Deathmatch. It's kind of like, come on, step up to the plate.
Hey, can I umpire? Can I sit in the middle? And I really think I could do that quite well.
I mean, I'm not being funny. It'd be a really, really cool show. But
I'm slightly biased towards Amy, though, to be fair. So I mightn't be the best. We probably need someone. But it's also, they've got false promises to recruiters, because they're basically saying, hey, you can start out and clients are just going to give you jobs. We all know, we've all been agency. That's the hardest part of the whole thing of being agency, is getting the bloody foot in the door. Like, why don't we want to do it anymore? Because it got even harder when all of this, ways to ignore us got in the way.
And especially contingent, there's no guarantees you're even going to get paid after you do the work. So
exactly. It's so much upfront work for no guarantee of a kind of a fee. But then maybe we're thinking to kind of market specific for ourselves. This platform play might be for, I don't know, Antarctica or something along those lines. It might be a captive audience there.
I mean, if you're recruiting
hire a penguin.
Snap. And that's my frustration, right? Like at least be sensible about who you're targeting and how you're positioning. But if you come in with this ridiculous broad statement of how recruiting is, like, that's crazy. And that is my chief complaint when whether they're new agency recruiters, new platform developers, whatever they are, anyone who's coming into the industry, if your premise and your value prop is that everyone else sucks, you're doing it wrong.
Totally. Yeah. And I think that's kind of one of the things that really comes across, Amy, is like, you know, look, we collectively, and, you know, a lot of people that we count as peers, friends, colleagues, network in the recruitment, we know how challenging it can be and how challenging it is to do it really well. And we know what doing it well looks like for both, you know, kind of candidates and employees and that. And, you know, I think it's right. We need to kind of call out people that are trying to cheapen the industry and make it, you know, kind of almost like less valuable. You know, we know how great it can be.
And the crazy thing is these people with these great ideas or disruptive thought processes or whatever, people like us and the people watching and the people who've been doing this for a long time could be your biggest champions. We've gone through it. We have seen, I've been hungry. I've had to you know, pawn stuff to feed my kids in a low commission month. You know, I mean, I know what it's like. And now I've reached a level of success, which is I never saw coming in my 20s and 30s, and I'm so grateful for. And if someone was like, hey, I want to try this new thing, I think this is helpful, I will be your biggest cheerleader. I will do everything I can to evangelize you, use your product.
But some proper compensation for her time.
That's true.
Sorry, because I am stunned. So, right? So you happen to have a salary, so it's easier for you to forget that. However, Glenn and I do not. Absolutely. And it is extraordinary how people do actually, they go, oh my gosh, Katrina, you've got all this expertise, you've written this book, blah, blah, blah. And then, I'll buy you a coffee. I'm sorry. You're getting like however many years. Oh gosh. I terrifyingly do not want to answer how many years it is of experience, plus all of the study, plus all of the, like, come on, compensate properly.
Totally agree. And maybe that's the barrier, right? Maybe it's, you know, hey, I don't want to invest in this. I don't want to tap the expertise of Katrina.
Well, why would you want to have a
why would
successful
you?
product?
I'm just going to do it on my own and piss everyone else off in the process. Like, it's crazy. And that's why we see these serial founders starting over and over and over again. You know, like, maybe if you took a minute to invest in the right training and the right conversation, who know what they're doing, you might actually launch this thing.
Yeah. And it's, you know, from a tech perspective, I mean, the market is so congested as it is, right? There's some really established platform plays out there. You know, you can't just rock up to a, you know, and kind of just introduce something and think, oh yes, immediately going to penetrate. Immediately, people are just going to adopt it, no problems. You know, they're just going to ditch all of the existing tools and platforms they're using because this looks amazing. I don't know anybody that's used it, but it looks great.
Were you able to dig in and work out if the people behind it have recruitment experience?
I did do a little sourcing.
She's quite good at that, by the way. Just like
I did once track down my kid at his friend's house by a really weird thread with softball parents and looking up like where businesses were, you know, incorporated and stuff. It's kind of wild.
And then she sent in a drone.
After that.
Exactly.
We were here. And we like pieced it all together. Anyway. No.
Which is one of the biggest talents of really good recruiters is they're curious. So Absolutely. What did you do? You kept digging.
I kept digging. I mean, I looked at, you know, previous employers. I dug into where they went to school. I know things about these people they probably don't want me to know.
But you know what they did that weekend in Amsterdam.
I mean, but, you know,
that level of detail.
Very limited, if any, recruitment experience across the whole team. A lot of them, for example, the writer of this particular post has been a creative director, whatever that means.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, there's like some kind of advisor to like boards of big companies, but again, how often do we bring someone in as a board member who actually never coded, for example? Like, how many engineers sit on the Microsoft board? Probably not a ton. So that doesn't count. Like, have they actually worked in the trenches and made 100 calls a day and actually placed somebody in a job? There is no proof of it that I could find.
That, which I know because you read it. I have written how many times in there, do not buy a product if a recruiter hasn't been involved with it.
Absolutely.
Because how can they possibly know?
Absolutely. I've been part of way too many like ATS integrations where I know for a fact you did not talk to a single recruiter about this, did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Coupled with the fact that, you know, even the sort of AI plays, you know, they've taken years to kind of come to fruition. I mean, I talked to one last Friday. I first met them back in 2016. And they're only now with, you know, clients.
So
they've actually
back
got clients
in
on board.
2016, you know, it's like 3 years ago. When did we start doing back in 2016?
Right? In terms of kind of
AI.
Yeah.
You know,
that's the best part of 3 years.
Sorry, let Glenn just finish his sentence because I want to know what he was going to say. Sorry, I was being rude.
Well, no, I was just saying, you know, that's 3 years in sort of, you know, kind of like the development of the actual proposition itself and this platform play. I mean, how long have they actually been really kind of looking to develop it? How do they know? How have they tested their hypotheses and they know it's actually the real deal? It's really going to land because there's far more complex technology platforms out there that take them, you know, a considerable amount of time.
Yeah. When I was at Microsoft, I mean, one of my last jobs was actually working with the business AI team and building out that team. And the idea was taking ideas and cool stuff that's coming out of Microsoft research and how do we monetize it? How do we actually turn it into a product and service? And these guys have, I mean, 10-year roadmaps. This is not something you just flip a switch and all of a sudden here you have this amazing bot that does all this cool stuff. So I have been listening to people tell me that the internet was going to take my job. I remember begging for the internet in one of the early staffing offices that I ran. We didn't have internet. We had intranet so we could put our payroll in. We didn't have internet because my boss didn't want us going on this new site called monster.com.
Right, yeah.
So about that time, it's like, oh, well, actually monster.com is going to take your job.
Yeah, didn't happen.
But with the AI, so you've seen proper AI, obviously, recruiting people. But AI and recruitment, I mean, what is it? It's glorified word searching. I mean, is there?
Well, yeah, it depends which thread of AI we're talking about, right? Which
look, I know there's some cool tools in video interviewing that'll read faces and shit like that, and work out whether we're lying. People can work that out anyway, but
Well, when you get into stuff like reading faces, like it's all, what's that old phrase? You know, we didn't think about. We were so worried if we could that we didn't think about if we should. Like that's a disaster.
Yeah.
That is an absolute nightmare waiting to happen.
You know, you can just do that anyway. So if I just say to you, like, what's the color of your front door? You will look the direction that is your recall. So you've got construct recall and it's one way or the other. And your eyes will go one way or the other. And you can work out if people are lying or not. Just from that little simple thing, ask them something that makes them recall something. And then you know if they're constructing or recalling. So you don't even need to.
Yeah.
I got taught that
years ago.
So are you saying that's developed over years and years of refining your recruiting expertise, finding mentors, and working really hard at this craft? Interesting.
I just think it's these human skills. But you know, you and I also had a little banter, didn't we? Because I was asking a question about, like, you know, what is it? The kids that are coming into recruitment now, what do they need? And we had quite a conversation, but a lot of that was, again, curiosity, wasn't it? The whole and the is it the tenacity, the confidence, isn't it, to stand up and say
as well, right?
Common sense would be a great addition to that.
But I still go back to we're not investing in them. That's another thread of conversation. We should do 3 shows, actually.
We should. I have a lot to say about that. The older I get, you know, the more.
So, as this show is a platform, Amy, what do you want to say to the authors of the blog post and the proposition?
I have so many questions. I would love to discuss how this came about. How do you measure success? And show me where this has worked. Show me first of all, again, how was this born? How did you come up with this idea? And then furthermore, take it to a point where you're actually getting all of this funding and you have all of these, you know, important names. I mean, I've never heard of them, but I guess they're big in the UK. That are behind this and funding this. You know, how did this all come about, and how many recruiters, actual on the ground people making placements, did you talk to about this and get advice from? I would like to know that. I don't want to hear about the speaker circuit and who you've talked to that hasn't made a placement in 20 years. I want to know the people that are using your platform and who had tried it out.
Yeah. Sorry, that was banjo and fur. It seemed quite apt though. With what you just said, and a whole load of fluff just went flying in my face. It's quite apt, to be fair. But I would love to know how, as me, baby recruiter, who's doing this as a side hobby, because I've never done this before, takes on this great platform. How do I get my first client to give me 20%?
Well, you just go and get them to agree to your fee. Here's the thing. My kid is one of my sons is
reading the Robot Proof Recruiter.
22, 23.
Is he the one reading my book, or is that the other one?
He's reading your book. Yes, he wants to be a recruiter. So he, unlike his sister, wanted nothing to do with college. So he decided, I want to be a recruiter. Like, you've done this my whole life.
Yeah.
I have a big mouth too, probably be good at it, and he's my mini-me. So I gave him your book, I gave him Jan's book, I connected him to people in the industry, I mean, all of that. And I told him, if you're going to do this, you're doing it 100%. You're doing it on your own, first of all. We're not going to capitalize on mommy's network, other than making
mommy's name.
And secondly, you have to do this 100%. This is not a side gig. This is not a hobby. You're going to quit your job and you're going to take a recruiting job if you can find one. And so that's where he's at. And he's, had a lot of calls, and he's had some frustrating, he doesn't have a degree. So that kind of kicks him out of a lot of entry-level roles, but it's not easy.
Yeah. It's ridiculous though, isn't it?
It is ridiculous.
You don't need a degree to need this job. You need to know, like, I know you're saying I talk a lot, but actually it's listening, as you know. It's listening and then talking, right? And showing that you've heard what they've said.
For sure.
And all of that curiosity and empathy. My God, empathy. We're playing with people's lives.
Yeah.
We really are. That engineer, $750,000 a year, which is a staggering amount of money. No wonder they have people living in their cars in Seattle. Yeah. Right. I know, it's terrifying. But you've got somebody like that who's so scared to change roles, and you're kind of going, well, how can you possibly be scared? You must have billions in the bank. But
and it's interesting
it's still scary because they expand out to their income.
Yeah. Am I relocating? Am I going to uproot my family from what they've known? I'm leaving behind a team that I've grown and developed and cultivated. That's a big one. They're leaving people that they have transferred, their work family. So there's all this emotional stuff bubbling underneath that AI is not tapping into and isn't able to do.
Yeah.
AI, like, he's gone in the dark. So my big thing is AI, the sourcing tools is still based on somebody's ability to write a CV or a resume, as you guys call it.
For sure.
I mean, most of them are blank.
The information that's out there. I mean, it could be, pulling from a GitHub profile or LinkedIn or, Twitter or whatever, and that's fine, but it's still parsing the words, but then also you still have to have a human that can recognize, as a really simplistic example, that if I can code in Java, I can code in C#. If I'm only looking for Java, I'm missing a ton of people that know C# that could probably be great at the job.
Because it is registering context, the kind of sentiment analysis as well. So if you don't write much, you don't fill in much in your LinkedIn profile, as Katrina was saying, then ultimately
they're still going to find you.
Right.
And most recruiters don't even fill out their own profiles. So and they're hard to write, right? To blow your own trumpet and all that sort of stuff. Oh, tough.
Yeah. Or put something meaningful on there, because ultimately, oftentimes people fill out their LinkedIn profile and just cut and paste their CV. Well, actually, you need to think about the audience that will be looking at that profile, or the audience you want to be looking at that profile.
Well, and that's the thing, because there's so many people, especially in tech, that don't want an audience. Please don't call me. Please don't email me. Please don't bother me. I don't want a new job. I'm perfectly happy with my $1 million.
Yeah, isn't there a great big rumor that none of the Microsoft engineers were actually on LinkedIn and sort of had to go on when Microsoft bought them?
Well, I have it on pretty good authority that a lot of Microsoft recruiters didn't like using LinkedIn and were forced to take some kind of silly test to prove that we could.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. Was there a blog post about that? I wouldn't need to.
I mean, maybe there should be. No, I loved my time at Microsoft. I'd go back if they'd have me at some point. I mean, I'm happy where I am now as well. But yeah, there's just so many engineers that just don't want to be bothered. And I remember sourcing on LinkedIn, like sitting down with clients and saying, hey, let's tap your network. And they're like, oh, I'm not on LinkedIn. I don't want to be on LinkedIn. Like I get scared.
For sure.
But they're definitely going to opt in for a free visa. Let me tell you.
Certainly are. That's absolutely right. So we have just about like 4 or 5 minutes left. Cool. Please, just for the people at home, explain the yoga pants. I'm sure you can do that. You've done it more than once.
Come on, that's a big question.
So there is a blog post as well, many years ago on a different site before I launched my own site, recruitinginYogaPants.com. And there was an article written by someone who had been a former Froyo store manager.
Froyo?
Frozen yogurt.
Oh, okay. Froyo.
One all the time. It's really good. So this guy had run a Froyo store.
Okay.
And then and he'd been in recruiting for about 9 months.
Right.
Which is about the time it took me to give birth to each of my 4 babies.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've created humans in the amount of time that he was in recruiting. And he was cautioning women against wearing yoga pants in the office. And one of his reasons, besides the fact that you'll be considered unprofessional, is that you also run the risk of vaginitis.
Oh my gosh!
I was not expecting that.
Oh, me neither. And I said,
oh my gosh!
So I'm a 40-something-year-old woman who's been in this
never
industry.
Had vaginitis.
I mean, I've given birth a few times. I'm a lot friendlier when I'm comfortable. Let me tell you that. I mean, look, I'm like over 40 and full of rage and sick of everyone's shit. Okay, do not come at me with vaginitis. So I wrote a letter and said I'll wear whatever the hell I want because I'm graded on the work that I do and the people that I bring to the table and the offers that I close, not on my freaking pants. And person has.
By the way, for all the British, we mean trousers, right?
So he's now moved on to something that has nothing to do with recruiting.
Strangely.
And Yoga Pants was born.
Seriously, if you are tuning in at the end of this show,
you
need to rewind back. This is bookended with, at the beginning, advertising in men's urinals, and we've ended on vaginitis. So, I mean, I'm not being funny, seriously.
Great. Amy Miller, how has it taken me so long to get you on our show? I'm so sorry.
Man, this is killer. It's absolutely killer.
Honestly, we could do the next 3 weeks. We've got enough bloody topics. We should just have you on weekly.
We can do this whenever you'll have me. This is so fun.
Oh my God. Oh, right. We'll have to come up with an equally controversial. Thank you though so much for getting up very early as well to come on and to share your stories with us. Yes. Amy Miller, if people want you, obviously you have said your website multiple times, but I assume the boring LinkedIn is another great place to find you.
Sure, I'm all over the internet.
Yeah, you're like me, you're everywhere. Mr. Martin, thank you very much as well, and we shall see you all at the same time next week. I believe we have a clock change, so we might have. Yeah, we might have an 11 a.m. and we always stay on the 3 p.m.
Still London time, though, right?
We're going to go from British summertime to Greenwich Mean Time, aren't we? So,
all right.
Yes, but it's always 3 o'clock London time. Sorry, England time. Britain time? I get in so much trouble for this every week. Because Glenn's not in London, you see. So I'm a bit rude. Anyway, we shall see you all at the same time next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, Amy.